By the time he remembers, it'll be too late. Omotola whispered the words to herself as she adjusted her diamond veil, watching her reflection blur in the mirror. The bridal suite smelled of roses, wealth, and something darker, fear. Her pulse drummed beneath her ribs, wild and unsteady, a reminder that what she was about to do could destroy everything or finally save her family. Outside the door, music swelled, violins, soft and slow. Guests whispered, the way people do when they sense a scandal they can't quite name. Omotola, her friend and maid of honor, Ada, said softly, "You don't have to do this." "I already did," Omotola replied, voice steady, eyes sharp. "I signed the contract. My father's company stays afloat, and I become Mrs. Li Jun Chen." Ada hesitated. "But you don't love him." Love. The word tasted bitter. Love hadn't paid her father's debts. Love hadn't stopped the creditors from circling their family name like vultures. Love hadn't saved her mother's clinic from being bought out by the same man she was about to marry. "No," Omotola murmured. "But I will make him love me." She turned, gathering the folds of her gown. The door opened. The hush that followed was thunderous. The ballroom glittered like something out of a dream, gold, glass, and sin. Every inch of the St. Regis shimmered with excess, chandeliers heavy with crystals, a sea of lilies perfuming the air, and 1,000 eyes watching the union of convenience dressed up as romance. Li Jun Chen stood at the altar, sculpted in black Armani, unreadable as ever. His eyes, cold, sharp, calculating, locked on her the moment she entered. There was no warmth in them, no affection, only ownership. The Dragon of Shanghai was marrying her because she was a strategic asset. She was marrying him because she needed his money. They both smiled for the cameras. But deep beneath her calm exterior, Omotola carried a secret that could burn the world they both ruled. She wasn't planning to be his wife forever. She was planning to destroy him. The ceremony passed like a blur of lies. Vows that meant nothing, kisses for the press, and a celebration built on deceit. Yet when his hand slid around her waist, his touch steady and possessive, something electric sparked between them, a feeling she hadn't expected. Something dangerously close to real. Later that night, the suite was silent except for the sound of rain tapping against the glass. Shanghai glittered below, the city of gods and ghosts, where every light seemed to hide a secret. Omotola sat by the window, still in her gown, staring at the storm. Li Jun Chen was in the next room, speaking in Mandarin on the phone, his tone clipped and ruthless. Even now, on his wedding night, business came first. She watched him through the reflection, tall, powerful, perfectly controlled. The kind of man who never lost. Until tonight. Because tonight, she was about to change everything. Her phone buzzed. A single text flashed on the screen. "It's ready. Just say when." Her thumb hovered. She hesitated for the first time. If she pressed send, the car crash would happen exactly as planned. He'd lose his memory, his control, and every piece of the empire he'd built. It was her only way to save her family. It was also the beginning of her undoing. She took a breath and pressed send. 3 weeks later, the scent of antiseptic filled the air. The rhythmic beep of the heart monitor was the only sound in the room. Li Jun Chen's eyelids fluttered open. The machines came alive with movement as nurses hurried out, whispering, Where am I?" His voice was hoarse, disoriented. Omotola rose from her chair, the perfect picture of a devoted wife. Her eyes glistened with tears. She didn't have to fake this time. "You were in an accident," she said softly, reaching for his hand. "But you're safe now, June. You're with me." He blinked, confusion deepening. "Who are you?" Her lips curved into a trembling smile. "I'm your wife, Omotola." He frowned slightly, then relaxed, as if the word wife was enough to anchor him. "My wife," he repeated, testing the sound. His fingers curled around hers, warm, trusting, unguarded. She felt the sting of guilt burn through her chest. The man she had schemed against now looked at her like she was his entire world. And as she gazed into his eyes, Soft and searching, Omotola realized with dread that maybe, just maybe, she had fallen for the man she'd tried to ruin. The light was too bright, the air too clean, and the woman by his bed, too perfect. Li Jun Chen stared at her through the fog of confusion, watching the way her fingers trembled as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Her name, what was it again? Omotola. She said it softly, like a prayer. His wife. The word didn't feel wrong, but it didn't feel right either. His head ached. Flashes of fire, screeching tires, glass shattering into the night. Then darkness. Now this, the quiet hum of a hospital room, the warmth of her hand on his, and the uneasy certainty that somewhere in the empty corners of his mind, something dangerous was missing. "How long have I been here?" he asked, voice rough. 3 weeks, she said, smiling through tears. "You've been asleep, but you're finally back to me." Back to her. He wanted to believe that. He studied her, rich brown skin that glowed under the sterile lights, eyes that held too much sadness to be fake, and a smile that broke through his fog like dawn through smoke. Something about her drew him in. Something familiar, but unreachable. 2 days later, he woke to the scent of jasmine and the sound of laughter. Omotola was sitting by the window, sketching designs on a notepad, humming softly to herself. When she looked up, her eyes lit with warmth. "You're awake." Li Jun Chen sat up slowly, his muscles stiff. "You design clothes?" She nodded. "I used to. Before the wedding, I ran a small brand. You said you liked that I wasn't afraid to work for what I wanted." He frowned slightly. "I said that." Her pen stilled. "You don't remember?" He shook his head. A shadow flickered across her face, but she quickly replaced it with a smile. "You used to say a lot of things. You were always too serious." He almost smiled. "Sounds about right." They both laughed, and for a moment it felt easy. Natural. Like maybe whatever he'd forgotten didn't matter. But then, as the laughter faded, an image stabbed through his mind. A flash of her in white, standing beneath golden lights. A wedding. His wedding. The crowd's faces blurred, but the look in her eyes, it hadn't been love. It had been something else. Something colder. The memory slipped away before he could grab it. That night, the storm outside matched the one in his head. Li Jun Chen lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the scent of rain seeping through the half-open window. His body felt fine now, but his mind was a maze, pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit. Omotola was sleeping beside him, her breathing slow and even. He turned his head, watching her silhouette in the dim light. There was something about the way she slept, so still, so careful, like someone who'd lived too long on edge. He wanted to ask her questions. About them. About who he was before. But every time he looked at her, he couldn't. It wasn't fear. It was instinct. Some buried part of him whispered, "Don't trust her." And yet, when she shifted in her sleep and her hand brushed his chest, the warning in his head vanished. All he felt was warmth. His heart thudded painfully. Whatever she was hiding, he didn't care. He was falling, fast, deep, reckless. A week later, his doctor showed him a photo album. "Maybe seeing familiar faces will help," the man suggested. Li Jun Chen flipped through the pages, frowning. Board meetings, luxury events, the wedding, and a picture of himself with another woman. Not Omotola. She was slender, pale, elegant, her arm around his waist like she belonged there. Written beneath in his own handwriting were the words, "With Mei Lin, my fiancée." He froze. The doctor glanced up. "You don't remember her either?" Li Jun Chen's throat went dry. "No." When he returned to his room, Omotola was waiting. She smiled when she saw him, until she noticed the album in his hand. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice a little too calm. He lifted the photo. "Who is she?" For a moment, Omotola didn't answer. Her fingers tightened around the edge of her chair, but her expression didn't break. "She was part of your past," she said softly. "Someone who didn't make it to your future." He watched her carefully, searching for cracks in the lie. There were none. Only her eyes, dark, unreadable, gave her away. And for the first time since waking up, Li Jun Chen felt something sharp coil inside him.
Distrust. He didn't know why.
He just knew one thing for sure. His wife was lying to him. The sound of the door shutting felt like thunder. Omotola stood frozen by the window, the stormlight painting streaks of silver across her face. She'd seen the look in Jun Chen's eyes when he walked in, sharp, suspicious, no longer the soft gaze of the man who trusted her every word. Something had changed. He knew. Maybe not everything, but enough to make her heart slam against her ribs. The photo album lay open on the table, the picture of Mei Lin staring back at her like a ghost. She hated that woman's face, delicate, polished, untouchable. The woman he had truly loved before everything burned. Omotola's fingers trembled as she closed the book. She had told herself that once Jun Chen lost his memory, the past wouldn't matter, that she could build something new, something better, on top of the ashes. But she had underestimated one thing. Memory wasn't just in the mind. It was in the bones, in the eyes, in the heartbeat that sped up for reasons you couldn't name. And now his body remembered what his mind had forgotten. Earlier that morning, he had kissed her. Slow, unsure, but real. And for one terrifying, beautiful second, she had forgotten everything. The lies, the manipulation, the plan. It had felt natural, like this was how they were always meant to be. Until she saw his expression afterward. Confusion.
Doubt.
That flicker of recognition that didn't belong to their story, but to another life he'd almost recovered. Omotola, he had murmured, brushing his fingers along her jaw. I keep seeing things. Hearing things. A woman's voice. A fight. Then tires. Screaming. And you crying. Her smile had faltered. It's just your mind trying to make sense of the trauma. He'd stared at her for a long moment before nodding. Maybe. But she could feel the distance now, invisible, cold, growing by the hour.
Now.
Omotola poured herself a glass of wine and tried to steady her breathing. The Shanghai skyline glowed beneath the night sky, 1,000 lights flickering like lies waiting to be exposed. If he remembered everything, she would lose him. And worse, he'd destroy her. Her father's company, her mother's clinic, her reputation. All of it was tied to the fake narrative she'd built. Li Jun Chen didn't forgive betrayal. Even with no memory, his instincts were still dangerous. Her phone buzzed. A single message flashed from an unknown number. He's asking questions about the crash. What do you want us to do? Omotola's chest tightened. She typed back quickly. Do nothing. Don't contact me again. Deleting the thread, she turned just in time to hear the faint click of the door. He was standing there, tall, silent, unreadable. Who are you texting?
His voice was calm.
Too calm. Her heart skipped. Just Ada. She's checking on me. He nodded slowly, stepping closer. His eyes searched hers, dark and heavy with questions. You've been different lately. Nervous. Is there something you're not telling me? She forced a smile. You've been through a lot, June. I'm just scared of losing you again. He reached out, his thumb brushing her chin. You won't lose me. But the way he said it sent a chill down her spine, because she couldn't tell if it was a promise or a warning. Later that night, sleep refused to come. Omotola sat at her desk, staring at the file she'd kept hidden since the beginning, the one containing every detail of the plan. The doctored medical reports. The payments. The staged accident. Everything. She should destroy it. She needed to destroy it. But some part of her couldn't. Because this chaos, this dangerous lie, was also her proof. Proof that she had once controlled the Dragon of Shanghai. That she'd made him bend. That she'd made him love her. A shadow moved behind her. She turned and froze. Li Jun Chen was standing in the doorway, half-dressed, his expression unreadable. Couldn't sleep? She asked softly. He didn't answer. His gaze dropped to the file on the desk, then back to her. What's that? Omotola's pulse stopped. Nothing, she lied, her voice barely a whisper. He took a slow step closer, his eyes narrowing. You're lying. And before she could respond, he reached past her, grabbed the file, and the world she had built on lies began to collapse in front of her. For a moment, time stopped. Omotola's breath caught in her throat as Li Jun Chen's fingers tightened around the brown file. The papers crackled faintly, a sound louder than thunder in the quiet room. Her hands trembled. "June, don't." But it was too late. He opened the file. Pages spilled out, bank transfers, medical charts, confidential reports, all stamped with the same logo, the hospital where his accident had taken place. And on the final page, in crisp black ink, was her signature, Omotola Cole. His voice, when it came, was a whisper edged with steel. "You planned it." She took a step forward. "I can explain." "Explain what?" His eyes snapped up, dark and lethal. "That you made me forget who I was? That you turned my life into a lie just to play wife to a man you didn't love?" Omotola's lips parted, but no sound came. Every lie she had built, every carefully chosen word, shattered in the air between them. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," she whispered. "You were going to ruin my family, June. My father's company. So you ruined me instead?" His voice rose, raw, incredulous. "Do you have any idea what you took from me?" "I took nothing you didn't already destroy," she shot back, tears cutting down her face. "You bought my father's debts. You threatened my mother's clinic. You left us with nothing. You forced me to marry you to save them." He stared at her like he didn't know her anymore. The silence stretched, heavy, dangerous. Then he laughed. A sound so cold it made her knees weaken. "So you decided to crash my car, bribe my doctor, and erase my memory? Ingenious." He stepped closer, the file still in his hand. "Tell me, Omotola, did you ever plan to stop lying? Or were you just waiting for me to die?" "Stop it." Her voice cracked. "You don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly." His tone turned venomous. "I married a woman who wanted my downfall and called it love." Omotola's chest ached as he dropped the file on the table, papers scattering like shattered glass. "Everything I felt for you," he said, voice low, "was built on a lie. Every touch, every word." Her heart broke. "It wasn't all a lie, June. I didn't mean to fall in love with you. I didn't plan that." He froze. The words hung between them, fragile, impossible. Omotola swallowed, tears blurring her vision. "At first it was about revenge. I wanted to see you lose everything the way you made us lose everything. But when you woke up, when you looked at me like I was the only thing you remembered, Enough." His tone was sharp, final. He turned away, running a hand through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. "Do you even hear yourself? You manipulated me, used me, and now you expect me to believe it was love." "It is love," she cried. "You think I wanted this? You think I haven't hated myself every day for what I did?" Her voice cracked on the last word. The truth was out, ugly and bare. He didn't respond. He just stared at her, the woman he'd trusted, the woman who had become his world, and saw a stranger. Then, quietly, he said, "Pack your things." Her blood ran cold.
"What?"
"You're leaving this house tonight. June, please." She took a step toward him, but he moved back, eyes burning with betrayal. "Don't." His voice was soft now, too soft. "If you touch me right now, I might not stop myself." Omotola's heart shattered. "Where will I go?" "Anywhere but here." He walked to the door, pausing only once. "And, Omotola, if I ever find out someone else helped you with this, they'll wish they'd died in that crash." The door slammed. Omotola collapsed to the floor, shaking, surrounded by the wreckage of her own making. The file lay open beside her, one page fluttering in the wind from the open window. The page with his hospital records. And beneath her forged signature was another, one she hadn't seen before. Mei Lin. Her stomach dropped. The woman from his past, his real fiancée, hadn't just been part of his memory. She'd been part of the plan. And Omotola realized, with growing horror, that she hadn't been the only one lying. The night swallowed Omotola whole. Rain poured in sheets as she stumbled down the mansion's marble steps, clutching a small suitcase, the only thing she'd managed to pack before Li Jun Chen's security team arrived. Her gown clung to her skin, soaked, heavy, like a punishment. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Because if she saw him standing there, tall, furious, heartbroken, she might have begged. And Omotola Cole did not beg. Not anymore. The taxi's headlights flashed through the rain, and she climbed in, her hands shaking. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass as the mansion disappeared behind her. Her heart felt like it had been ripped in half, one side guilty, the other still hopelessly in love with the man she destroyed. 2 days later, downtown Shanghai. The city didn't sleep, but Omotola hadn't either. She found a small apartment above a tailor's shop, cheap, quiet, anonymous. Every morning she sat at the same window, staring down at the crowds, clutching the same mug of tea she never drank. She told herself it was over, that she could rebuild, that maybe someday she'd forgive herself. But the truth was, she couldn't stop thinking about him, about the look in his eyes when he found the file, the way his voice cracked when he said pack your things, and the signature. Mei Lin. The name haunted her. What was she doing there, inside Omotola's forged paperwork? How had she even known about the plan? Omotola pulled the wrinkled page from her purse again, tracing the elegant strokes of Mei Lin's signature. A chill crawled up her spine. There was only one explanation. Someone else had been watching. Someone had known everything and used her as a pawn. Meanwhile, across the city, Li Jun Chen sat in his office, the skyline burning behind him. 3 sleepless nights had sharpened him back into the man he used to be, ruthless, calculated, cold. But now, the coldness was personal. He'd gone through every record, every hidden camera feed, every name connected to Omotola's plan. And one name kept reappearing where it didn't belong. Mei Lin, his former fiancée. The one who had vanished after their broken engagement, right before the crash. He slammed his fist against the desk, papers scattering. So, it wasn't just Omotola's betrayal. It was hers. Get me everything on Mei Lin, he told his assistant. Every account, every contact. If she's still in Shanghai, I want her found. He leaned back, exhaling slowly. For the first time since the accident, his mind felt clear, too clear. Flashes came faster now, Mei Lin's perfume. A whispered argument. Her voice sang, she's perfect for it. Perfect for what? And then, tires screeching. His hands clenched. Someone had staged his death. But who wanted him dead more? The woman who lied to save her family, or the one who once swore to love him forever? That evening, Omotola jolted awake to a knock on her door. Her heart skipped. No one knew where she lived. She approached cautiously, every muscle tense. Who's there? A pause. Then a familiar voice, soft and chilling. Did you really think I wouldn't find you, Omotola? The voice she'd heard only in whispers and memories. She opened the door, and there stood Mei Lin, dressed in white, dry despite the rain, a calm smile curving her lips. Why you? Omotola stammered. Why are you here? To congratulate you, Mei Lin said, stepping inside uninvited. You did beautifully. The accident, the memory loss, the pity act. You are the perfect distraction. Omotola's stomach turned. Distraction? From what? Mei Lin's smile deepened, sharp and gleaming. From me finishing what I started. I wanted Li Jun Chen ruined, Omotola. I just didn't think you'd actually make him fall in love with you. Omotola froze. You planned this. I orchestrated it, Mei Lin purred. You think your little scheme was original? You were my puppet. I needed someone desperate enough to take the fall. The world tilted. Omotola's breath hitched. You lied to me. You said you worked for a friend who wanted to help. I said whatever you needed to hear. Mei Lin's eyes glinted with malice. You made him vulnerable. And now, I'll finish the job you started.
Job.
Mei Lin leaned in close, her perfume cloying and cold. You broke his heart. I plan to break everything else. Before Omotola could speak, Mei Lin turned toward the door. You should disappear, darling. The dragon is awake, and when he learns the whole truth, he'll burn us both. The door clicked shut behind her. Omotola stood frozen, her heartbeat hammering against her ribs. She wasn't the villain anymore. She was the prey. Meanwhile, in the dark of his penthouse, Li Jun Chen stared at the photo of Omotola and Mei Lin together. Two women from different worlds, bound by the same lie. He whispered to himself, voice calm, terrifying. They think they played me. But the game isn't over. The city shimmered under the rain. Neon lights bled across wet pavement, and somewhere high above, a man watched from the glass walls of his empire, his gaze fixed on the woman who had both saved and destroyed him. Li Jun Chen's jaw tightened as the screen before him flickered. Live footage from a street camera. Omotola. She was running through the night. And behind her, Mei Lin's car. It was happening all over again. Omotola's breath came in ragged gasps as she darted across the bridge, the storm whipping her hair into her face. The city blurred behind her. She could hear Mei Lin's laughter echoing over the roar of thunder. You can't outrun me, darling. He'll never believe you now. Omotola turned sharply into an alley, clutching the small flash drive against her chest, the one she'd stolen from Mei Lin's bag minutes earlier. She'd seen the files, offshore accounts, hidden surveillance, recorded phone calls. Proof that Mei Lin had orchestrated everything, including the crash. The truth was finally in her hands. But so was her death sentence. Headlights flooded the alley as Mei Lin's car skidded to a halt. She stepped out, her heels slicing through puddles, eyes blazing. Give me the drive, Mei Lin hissed. Not this time, Omotola said, voice trembling but steady. You ruined my life. His life. But this ends tonight. Oh, please, Mei Lin sneered. You really think he'll forgive you? You lied to him first. You used him. You made him love a fantasy. Omotola's heart twisted. Maybe I did. But the love was real. Even if I didn't deserve it. A gun clicked. Mei Lin smiled. Then die with your truth. A voice cut through the storm. Put the gun down, Mei Lin. They both froze. Li Jun Chen stepped out from the shadows, rain dripping down his black coat, eyes like steel. For a moment, time held its breath. He looked at Omotola, the woman who'd lied, cried, loved, and left him, and then at Mei Lin, the ghost of his past. Chen, Mei Lin whispered. You shouldn't be here. I was always here, he said softly. Watching. Waiting. Remembering. He lifted a small device, a recorder. Mei Lin's voice spilled out, clear and damning. You were my puppet. I needed someone desperate enough to take the fall. Mei Lin's face drained of color. You. I planted that bug weeks ago, he said. I needed to know who was lying. Now I do. He turned toward Omotola. You should have trusted me. Tears stung her eyes. I didn't know how. I was drowning. For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other. Two broken souls who'd set fire to their own hearts. Then Mei Lin screamed and raised the gun.
Bang.
The sound tore through the rain. Omotola gasped, but it wasn't her who fell. Mei Lin staggered back, eyes wide in disbelief. A red bloom spread across her chest. Behind her, Li Jun Chen's security team lowered their weapons. She collapsed, whispering through bloodied lips, He was never supposed to love you, before her eyes went dark. Silence. Only the rain. Omotola trembled as Li Jun Chen approached. His hand brushed against her cheek, his touch both tender and heavy with unspoken pain. You were right, he murmured. The accident wasn't real. But everything after that was. She looked up at him through tears. You hate me. I tried to, he confessed, voice breaking. But I remembered the way you laughed when you forgot to be afraid. The way you said my name like it meant something. She swallowed hard. I didn't plan to fall for you. I just did. He smiled faintly, weary, beautiful. Then we both made the same mistake. He took the flash drive from her trembling hand and tossed it into a puddle. No more lies. No more ghosts. Then what's left, she whispered. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers.
Us.
If we want it. For the first time in what felt like forever, she smiled, soft, real, free. Epilogue 6 months later. Sunlight spilled through the glass windows of a coastal villa in Bali. Omotola walked barefoot along the terrace, her white dress flowing in the breeze. Behind her, Li Jun Chen sat by his laptop, a faint smile on his face as he watched her. Still checking your email? She teased. Old habits, he said, standing. But don't worry, this time, no secret files, no fake accidents. She laughed and turned to him. So, what are we now? He stepped closer, wrapping his arms around her waist. Not billionaire and bride. Not liar and victim. Then what? She asked softly. Survivors, he said. Who decided to love again. Omotola leaned into his chest as the ocean roared below. Some stories ended in flames. Theirs began again in the ashes.